This is the June 14th, 2022 meeting of the City of Jefferson Historic Preservation Commission. My name is Donna Dietz, and I'm chairperson of the commission. Excuse me. I'd like the members of the commission to please introduce themselves. We'll start at this end. And Christine, when you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, so we know a little bit about you since you're our new member. Mike.
Michael Berenson.
Fantastic. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you for volunteering to be on this. We could use your services. Tiff?
Tiffany Patterson.
Alan Wheat.
Brad Schaefer.
Gail Jones. Staff?
Rachel Sinzi, city staff. Carly Rinkemeyer, city staff.
We do have a quorum. The city code authorizes 9 regular members. And since we have 7 of us here tonight, I'm in shock. But we have a quorum. Are there any members who are disqualified from voting on any items tonight? In our call for cases, we have a demolition clearance public hearing for buildings over 100 years old. Are there any requests for clearance or for continuances? Okay. Any reordering of the agenda? Okay, we'll go ahead and read the format of the hearing. Do you want to do that, Rachel? I can do it from up here, whichever you want.
Laura Ward is joining by WebEx, and she wanted to make sure she's having a hard time hearing.
I'm on.
No, I can hear
Everybody else.
everybody just fine, just not the new member. I'm not sure if her microphone is not working or if she forgot to hit the button.
I forgot.
Okay,
Newbie,
that's fine.
Newbie mistake. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that everybody could hear us
Thank
that are
you.
joining us online. So back to the public hearing procedures. I'm going to describe to you the format of the hearing and the order of testimony, and the procedures of the commission. The proceedings of the meeting are being recorded, so please step to the microphone when you speak and give your name for the record. The standard order of each case is as follows. After introduction of the request by city staff, the applicant or their consultants will provide information on the request. The opening presentation by the applicant shall be limited to 10 minutes unless additional time is granted by the commission. The applicant shall have 3 additional minutes for closing testimony if requested. We will then ask to hear from supporters of the request. We will then ask to hear from the opponents of the request. We will then ask to hear from anyone else who wishes to speak on the request. Testimony shall be limited to 3 minutes each unless additional time is granted by the commission. City staff will then make their recommendations on the request. In order to reduce the time necessary to hear an application, reference to printed material, including staff reports and applicable findings, shall not be read into the record unless directed by the commission. The commission will close testimony from the floor. The commission will then discuss the proposal, then publicly make its determination with reasons. The form of the motion shall be positive. That is, the motion shall be made to accept the request as presented or with modifications, stipulations, or conditions. A final vote will be taken with ayes in favor, nays opposed. The chairman shall announce the result of the vote, specifying the number of votes cast in favor and the number of votes cast against.
Okay, thank you. The next item is list of exhibits. Rach?
Yes, the following documents are entered as exhibits for all items under consideration at this meeting. The city code of the city of Jefferson as amended, copies of applications under consideration, copies of drawings, plans, and or renderings under consideration, letters or memoranda from staff, staff reports, minutes of proceedings, correspondence or other materials submitted to the public or the applicant, rules of procedure for the Jefferson City Historic Preservation Commission, These items are public record and available for inspection in the Department of Planning and Protective Services or through the offices of the city clerk. Please be advised that any items that are presented, distributed, or otherwise received pertaining to the cases under consideration become the property of the commission. This includes any photographs, drawings, petitions, and letters.
May I have excuse me, may I have a motion to approve the agenda as printed?
So move.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the agenda, and we do have a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. You have in your packet the minutes from the April 12th, 2022 meeting. Are there any changes to that? Corrections? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move that we approve the minutes of the April 12th, 2022 meeting.
Second.
And we have a motion on the floor to approve the April 12th meeting minutes. And a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? Okay, motion carries. Next item of business is demolition review on 112 Pier Street and 110 Volkerson Street. Oh, I'm sorry. I've got it in two different places, two different ways. Okay, do you want to do the public hearing first or the clearance? You've got, on one you've got clearance. The general agenda is clearance.
Yes, and we can do the
review.
review first if I could. I can't forward my slide. One moment. There we go. The first item that we have up is a demolition review for 112 Pier Street. Let me get to my. The application is for demolition of one residential structure located at 112 Pier Street. The purpose of the request is to demolish a single-family structure located at the address mentioned. According to the city directories, the property's address was formerly 104 Pier Street, but has since been updated to 112. The Midmo GIS has the construction date as being 1920. However, when we were researching the property using city directories and Sanborn maps, the structure was not present until the 1930s. The property has been declared dangerous by the Housing and Property Supervisor of the City of Jefferson. Up on the screen, you'll see photos of the outside of the property. In addition to the inside of the property. And as going through the staff report, as we are going through, the property is not listed on the National Register, nor is it a landmark designation. The property character does not have contextual context to the rest of the neighborhood, mostly because the other properties, some of them have been demoed as well. There's no significant identification with persons or people that are significantly contributing to the development of the community. The property does not embody any distinguishing characteristics or architectural style valuable to the study of period. There's no known information on a designer or architect of the property, and no known significant events have transpired on the property. In reviewing section 8-44C of the city code, criteria for nomination as outlined above, the structure does not appear to hold significant historical significance in terms of heritage, culture, or architecture. It is not the embodiment of the distinguishing characteristics of an architectural style valuable to the study of period, type, and method of construction. The property does not embody elements of design, detailing, materials, and craftsmanship that renders it architecturally significant. And as mentioned, the property has been declared dangerous by the city of Jefferson. The back half of the house is collapsing into a cistern that's underneath the structure. The form of motion is the staff recommendation that the Historic Preservation Commission approve the demolition review for 112 Pier Street.
What questions does the commission have?
I have just a quick question. So I think, is there an anomaly in how the packet was put together? Because I have this brick building like in the middle of the photographs. It's labeled Elm Street.
We do have an Elm Street demo.
Yeah, but it's kind of, in my packet, it was in the middle of the 112. And I just want to make sure everybody's looking at the right house in their packet because I was very confused.
It should say on the map, it should have 112
Okay.
Pierce.
Yeah, I was just saying that yeah,
Okay,
I had a straight page. And it was
apologies.
very confusing. So
It was quite a packet. Sorry.
I can see that it was, so I apologize.
So that's okay.
Figured I
I'd
was like-
rather you have their information correct.
So it was, I was just slightly confused, but okay, thank you.
Is this one that the owners are taking down or the city?
I believe the owners applied for this one.
Okay.
We did ask if he planned to do anything with the lot. Right now, it's going to stay vacant. Was so far the plan.
What other questions does the commission have? If none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the demolition review application for 112 Pierce Street.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. Second one is on 110 Fullerson Street.
Correct. So this application is for 110 Fulkerson Street. And if you'll remember, about a year or so ago, maybe a little bit longer, we did approve a demolition on Fulkerson Street. They have since basically reconstructed a bungalow look house, new construction build in that area. This is the same property owners. The property's been vacant for a year and a half. Its recent uses have been storage. On their application, in your packet, you have the formal application for demolition. They did note that they are trying to kind of do some architectural salvage. They're using the staircase railing in a house at 900 West Main that they use. And they're also kind of taking the front door and donating some of the utilities, looks like stove, microwave, to charity. But that is also a condition that can maybe be put on. But it sounds like they're already doing these activities. Why can't the property be rehabilitated or restored? The house has interior steps into some rooms, and the bathroom is of a size and location that makes it inaccessible to anybody with mobility challenges. The exterior steps are also crumbling despite our best efforts over the years to maintain them. The lot sizes, when asked what the applicant wanted to do, she indicated once the property were demoed, she wanted to keep the lot vacant to add more yard space, green space to the neighboring property. Up on your screen is photos of the exterior. And then we start to get into the interior photos.
Rach,
Yes.
correct me if I'm wrong, but not all rental properties have to be ADA accommodations. One of her reasons here is the house It's of a size and location makes it inaccessible to anyone with mobility challenges. But that's,
So the only thing that if they have to pull a permit, it has to be to the updated city code, the building code. But I don't believe there are ADA accessibility requirements there.
That's correct. If somebody needs
put them in themselves.
Right. And I think, so if I,
I'm just
and this
looking at
is,
the reason that they put down for demolition.
right. So when we were conducting our staff report, this, for the application for the demolition of the structure at 110 Fulkerson. This property, according to Midmo GIS, was constructed in 1920. However, so we're finding that Midmo GIS is, when we did further research, we found that the structure was not present until at least 1929. So that's where it comes in. The property is not listed on the National Register. However, this is in the area that we are currently surveying. And according to our consultant, this would be a contributing structure if this area were to become a National Register district. So the property does possess a character, interest, or value as far as the development, heritage, and cultural characteristics of the community, county, state, and nation. But no known significant events have transpired on this property. Information on the designer or architect is unknown. It's the back half on my report. Hold on.
You just said it's a large package.
Yes, it is. So in reviewing section 8-44C, the criteria is outlined above. The structure does appear to hold sufficient historical significance in terms of heritage, culture, or architecture, and it does embody distinguishing characteristics of an architectural style. Valuable for the study of period, the area of the neighborhood, and the method of construction within that time period. The property does not necessarily embody elements of design, detailing materials, and craftsmanship that render it architecturally significant. However, it does contribute to the rest of the neighborhood. David Taylor, our current historic preservation consultant, considers 110 Fulkerson Street a contributing structure due to its age and character. The demolition of the property would not conflict with any of the existing city plans or land use. So it is the staff report that the motion of the demolition review application for 110 Fulkerson Street be recommended for approval by this commission.
You had a question.
What were you saying in the beginning about, did you say something about about this house previously or something? About a scene and something?
There was like the previous, so I'm gonna, 1 to 2 years ago, she came to the commission and asked for the demolition of a similar type bungalow. And we approved it, the commission approved it, and she has since rebuilt a structure
Oh.
there. And at the time, I believe it was for her parents or family.
That was my memory also.
Yeah.
But we haven't seen anything on this structure before, something with it.
Not this one. So this one, I believe it's next door.
Yeah, it's just to the south of the one that they rebuilt.
And I don't remember. Well, does it match the
Well, it's,
neighborhood or is it?
I mean, it's not brick. Most of the
Okay.
buildings in that neighborhood are brick, and it has a wraparound porch, which doesn't, but the general size and roof line, I think, are
Yeah.
similar.
And we had spoken to her about, doing like in an older neighborhood, doing new construction and how, being contemporary, but
What other questions?
this property, I believe, is brick.
Yes, it is.
Yes,
Pictures.
it's brick. Yeah.
We can go back to the outside. It's got bricks with a little bit of siding addition.
Did you sell this house? That's. What are yeah. What other questions does the commission have? If none, we can entertain a motion to approve.
So we've got something to vote on. I'll move that we approve the demolition review application for 110 Fulkerson Street.
And we do have a motion. Do I have a second for that?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the demolition review, please say aye. Those opposed, please say nay.
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 The nays have it, and the motion is denied.
Okay, we will let the applicant know. And just a reminder, as a demolition review, they still have the waiting period of 75 days and they could pursue their demolition permit under the current code.
We know. Demolition clearance public hearing. Is there anyone here who wants to say anything about the first building on that, 604 Washington? Ready? Okay. We'll call it this time. Is there anybody to address 208 West Elm? If not, we'll go ahead and address the issues and the hearing will be closed. I'm sorry, I've talked for 3 hours straight. My head's about shot. Rachel, would you like to tell us about 604 Washington?
Yes, 604 Washington. We were not given if they were going to be preserving or donating architectural salvage. And we were not given an indication on, I believe this is a vacant lot. Oh, yeah, hello. So this property, my staff report. The application is for the demolition of one residential structure located at 604 Washington Street. The purpose of the request is to demolish the structure located at the address. According to Binmo GIS, the structure was constructed in 1920. However, upon further research, the structure was present in 1908, therefore triggering its public hearing. The property is not listed on the National Register. It is not a current landmark award winner. There's no known significant events that have transpired on the property, and information on the designer or architect is unknown. In reviewing section 8-44C criteria for nomination in the city code, the structure does not appear to hold sufficient historical significance in terms of heritage, culture, or architecture. It is not the embodiment of distinguishing characteristics of an architectural style valuable to the study of period, type, and method of construction. The property does not embody elements of design, detailing materials, and craftsmanship that render it architecturally significant. The property and housing inspector took photos with the consent of the property owner, and this building would fit the definition of the criteria to be considered dangerous. On your screen, you'll see photos of the outside of 604 Washington. And the interior. After review of the photos and consulting with current plans and land use, the motion that the demolition review or clearance application for 604 Washington Street is recommended for approval by this commission.
Rachel, the little garage that's on the back, the separate garage that's included in the.
I believe
Okay.
so.
questions does the commission have? Alan, Brad, anybody? Anybody have any questions? I will entertain a motion at this time. Hey, Alan.
Do you know if the structure is it vacant or? And how long is? I guess I'm just looking at the application here. No, that's the wrong, I'm not sure I have the right application.
It's the one, Robert Friedman. Robert Friedman.
It's been vacant about 10 years.
I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. If no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that we approve the demolition review application for 604 Washington Street.
Do I have a second? Second it. We have a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. Excuse me. Next one. 208 West Elm.
Yes, the application for demolition of one residential structure located at 208 West Elm Street. The purpose of the request is to demolish a single-family residential structure located at 208 West Elm Street. According to Minmo GIS, the structure was constructed in 1910. However, upon further research using city directories and Sanborn maps, the structure was present as early as 1908. The property has been declared dangerous by the housing property inspector, and the dangerous building packet is included within your packet. The staff analysis of the property is not listed on the National Register nor landmark designation. However, the property possesses the character, interest, or value as part of the development, heritage, and cultural characteristics of the community. We do not know of any significant events that have transpired on that property, nor is the information on the designer or architect known. My packet's a little wonky too, but it may have been me. In reviewing section 8-44C criteria for nomination within the city code, the structure does appear to hold sufficient historical significance in terms of heritage, culture, and architecture. But it is not the embodiment of distinguishing characteristics, or it is the embodiment of distinguishing characteristics of an architectural style valuable for the study of period and within that area and that neighborhood. The property does possess elements of design, detailing, materials, and craftsmanship that renders it architecturally significant. However, due to the structure's dangerous condition, demolition is recommended by city staff. The motion that the demolition clearance application for 208 West Elm Street is recommended for approval by this commission. But I guess I better show you the photos first. So here's the exterior. And I believe the dangerous condition is the actual addition because it's pulling away from the original structure. You could see it's going.
The windows have all been left open, doesn't help.
Naturally. I believe that's all the photos that we received. I don't know that they could go into some parts of the house.
Just a quick question. Are most of it looks like there's not much left around there from the kind of a sole survivor,
Maps, yeah.
block of.
Yes, and I believe I misspoke on the previous one where I said the neighbors had been already demolished. It was this one. But yes, that's correct. It has no friends.
Kind of sad.
Has no friends.
Cute little house, or would have been,
Mhm.
could have been a cute little house.
What questions does the commission have?
Most of the structural problems are in the addition rather than the actual brick portion.
Well, the addition, because I believe, blew out the wall to add the addition, so the addition is pulling away from the main structure.
Look, if you look at the top, it's done something to the roof.
Mhm.
It looks like it's pulling the eave actually out. I did
Or
not. go
collapsing
walk-
into it or something.
Yeah, I didn't go walk around this one.
So are parts of the existing house gone? Still the addition? Did they take down brick walls in order to do this? Or
I don't know to the extent, but there's at least access. It didn't seem like it was just like through the back door. It seemed like it was more substantial.
enlarged?
But I don't
opening or
have photos
something
of
to
that,
get
and I did
into?
not see that with my eyes. It was based off of.
I guess what I'm getting at is if that addition were removed, would there be enough salvageable to make it a good residence yet, or even take down the old
Yeah, we'd have to bring in
addition and
an
then add
architect and
something
an
new to it?
engineer to probably make that determination.
Or at least get inside it to take the pictures to see how it was divided.
Yeah, have the owners considered something? Or do we know?
I did not talk to her when she submitted her for him. Joanne from
Now, what I'm wondering. I mean, it's a nice house.
Yeah.
The addition is, I would agree, is probably dangerous and needs to be removed. But not knowing the condition of the back portion of that existing house, it would seem to me that existing house, unless it's been really compromised, could still be used in some efficient way to make a nice little residence there.
So I'm looking at the dangerous building, the corrective action for it has been declared dangerous. So it's a
Mhm.
secure
Saw
site to
that.
prevent on the backside of the dangerous building memo. They need to secure the site to prevent access to areas with overhead fall hazards, obtain sealed drawings from a licensed professional, obtain all necessary permits, and using licensed contractors to repair the failing structure per approved drawings. Owner may also choose to obtain permits and demolish the structure to remove hazards. Maintain site security prior to, during, and through completion of repairs and/or demolition. So it's the city has ordered the abatement of the property.
And they're choosing demolition instead of rehab.
That's correct.
Okay.
Well,
But I'm still not seeing where that necessitates the demolition of the entire property. I see the problem, I see the structural problems.
Mhm.
It doesn't isolate where the structural problems are, though. I mean, I can certainly see where there are structural problems in that addition.
Correct.
I don't know about the main portion, and maybe it goes throughout. When I read the report, I didn't get a good feeling on how extensive that demolition needed to be, or, I mean, it may be possible that it needs to be the whole thing, but I didn't really get that sense from reading the report. So that's why I asked the question, how much of it really
Sure.
needs to be demolished?
And this is something that we can ask. We can go back and ask the property owner. We can go back and ask the dangerous building inspectors and see If that's a question that you need to have answered in order to make your determination,
Right.
we can, the commission would have to table this issue, and we'd have to bring it back
Okay.
up to the next meeting.
Is it okay to table, or should I make a motion that we request that information before
You
we
have to have a
before we
motion.
vote
to
on it?
table.
Okay, well then I'll make a motion to table it till that information can be obtained.
Does this application include the outbuilding in the back?
Where are you seeing the building?
Is it on the plan? The site
There's
plan?
something on the aerial. I
Is there
think.
nothing? Yeah, let's see.
It looks like the
The outbuilding on
building
the previous
on the
one,
back
but
of
Is it-
on the aerial map, it looks like there's at least 2 buildings on the property.
Mm-hmm, it does.
I read now. So it's-
No, it does look like it. It's 208 West Elm. And we can get that information to Brad.
I do not know. We have to ask.
Okay, that could be part of the information too, then that is brought back for the next meeting if we table this. Okay. I do have a motion to table this discussion until the next meeting.
Second.
Okay, I have a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it and the motion is carried. Excuse me. Okay. Yes. Okay, demolition clearance is done. Old business. Do we have any old business? Or is it, we're gonna take that up under the legacy report and such? Any other old business?
No.
New business, historic legacy district?
Yes. So the Historic Legacy District, this has been a request that originated within the Code Revision Committee. It started off with identifying the local historic districts that we currently have. And there was some concern that there was public sentiment that assumed that the Foote Lafayette area was a local historic district. And that is not technically the case. So we started having these deep conversations about what could we do for history that's been lost. So something that we came up with, and we'd researched other cities to kind of figure out what other people were doing. So there's kind of 3 ways that you can move things through council. You have a resolution, which is essentially council support. They're supporting something that is occurring within your community at that moment. And then there's proclamation, and that's a mayoral proclamation. So the Foote and the Foote area was proclaimed a local historic district by mayoral proclamation, and there was a resolution that supported that proclamation. The third kind of category is the local ordinance, and that's codifying and making something official and establishing a process within city code. So we felt that city staff and also the Code Revision Committee felt that we could go ahead and pursue a historic legacy district that would behave in a very similar format to a local historic district, with the exception that it doesn't really have any teeth because there's no properties that exist there anymore. But it's a formal way of recognizing historic areas that no longer have a built environment, and being able to make them a part of the official historic record that the city is responsible and the commission is responsible for tracking. So before you, we have out of the code revision, we have a spinoff of a code change before our big code change. So it would be an amendment to the existing city code, and then would likely carry over into the draft of the new code. So walking you through this, one of the things that we identified in our existing code that we can make a quick change to is moving the definitions to the front. In the existing code, they have the definitions in the back. And our attorney did not like that. So one of the things that we can do a quick fix on is moving the list of definitions to the front of that. And what you'll note within the definitions, there is a change, which is called a historic legacy district. It is a geographical area of historical and cultural significance for which most of all of the physical attributes, structures, streets, public areas, archaeological, relevant to the historical or cultural period of significance no longer exist. That's the definition of what a historic legacy district would be. Moving through the code, and this is going to be something that you'll get familiar with. It's our existing code, and anything that changes gets struck. Anything that's added is highlighted. The public hearing process for the nomination of a historic legacy district would be very similar to a historic district that has the structures included on it. It would be nominated through a public hearing process. There would be an application that the Historic Preservation Commission would review. There'd have to be an agenda notice that would have to be posted at least 24 hours in advance to allow public hearing processes to take place. All applicants and other interested parties and stakeholders would have to be given reasonable and fair opportunity to be heard, to present evidence relevant to the application and have input on the process. The public hearing would be handled in a very similar format to how this is being handled. If the Historic Preservation were to approve the nomination of a historic legacy district, the nomination would then be moved to City Council to be enacted in an ordinance. Any questions? It could be the community center is listed as an individual structure on the National Register, but this would be a local designation, so it could be included, as well as there was not a time, there wasn't a 50 years or a qualification for a historic legacy district, so you could include Right. So you could include those within those boundaries and recognize it. But then that would be, if it's a historic legacy district, it's not going to have the teeth that a local historic district were to have. So if you included the community center in a historic legacy district, there wouldn't be design standards for the community center. If you wanted design standards for the community center, it'd have to go through the local process. Yeah. That was not included within it. And that's, if that's something that, and we talked about that at length and going back and forth. Well, what does this mean? What does it act? How does it behave? And with, unless you start going through the local, I won't say call it the normal process, but the local historic district process where you have your kind of your standard built environment, that's where you can go through the process and create those design standards. But then it became too much of an unknown. Well, if you have a local legacy district and you have a land use proposal for it, that the future is so open to what could possibly go there and restricting what would go there. Because it's more about identifying the boundaries of it versus having any land use requirements attached. It's new, it's different. We didn't really find any other communities that did anything similar, except for, well, that's a little bit different because that's a different. New York City has a local historic district that, but they uncovered a large a slave grave. They got to, I think, like 400 bodies, and they decided to put it back. And so they've created this different type of historic district because they don't want it's the middle of Manhattan, so they don't want it to develop there. And that's really we haven't really seen anybody else that's doing this, but there's kind of a push to become more inclusive of history that's not there. So we did have, at our code revision, we did have a speaker from Tulsa that came in and was talking about some of the trials and tribulations that they were going through with the Greenwood, is that right?
Black Wall Street.
Yeah. So some of the things that they were having challenges with, and a lot of it stemmed around just being recognized and having the ability to be recognized and having the story put on the record, was something that was important, and that's very benign for us. This doesn't behave or do anything, but it's more of a symbolic ability to include everyone's history. And it doesn't have to be just the foot. It could be, we could go back to Native American or German heritage that's no longer here. We could do other things with it. But it's
I
just,
was going to ask,
yeah.
the mill bottom, somebody asked me today on one of the tours about, is that a historic district or is that anything else where the mill bottoms used to be?
Right.
With all of the industrialization, and there's nothing.
Right.
But it could be set up
Yeah.
similarly.
And I
to
can see,
recognize it.
can see some potential in the future with, we do a lot with mapping and, doing GIS layers and story mapping and whatnot. And so there's an opportunity that this could be built on. But I think for right now, for the purpose of what this code revision would be simply, recognition, of areas that no longer exist.
What questions y'all have? Is this something that you need the commission's motion to approve this to be added?
Yeah, so the journey of this would be, we would move it on to, we'll have to draft a bill and a bill summary, which I believe we have done. We'll have to draft a bill and a bill summary. We'll put it on the next Public Works and Planning agenda for a council committee review. And then if they approve it, then it would go to council and have a first and second and third reading.
Questions on the procedure from anyone? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the wording for historic legacy district.
Motion to approve the
Second.
wording for historic legacy district.
We have a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Motion is carried. 407 Lafayette.
Yes, 407 Lafayette has, there was a permit pulled for a new addition of a porch, includes steps, posts, roofing, and railing. So this falls within the School Street Local Historic District. When you, within your packet, you also have the School Street Local Historic Design Guidelines. If you go to, I believe it is page 3 of the design guidelines, section E is the requirement for porches. If you go further within the design standards, there's photos of the properties that were taken during the original, whenever the local historic district was established. I do not have, oh, wait, yes, I do. So there is 407 Lafayette, the new porch edition. They have already, this was a catch. So it wasn't, they came to the city and pulled the permit. It was, you need to go get a permit. So they've somewhat already started. This was the original porch of the structure, obviously in need of a new porch. Let's see, no. When you drive by, they've already kind of started and they're building, it looks like brick supports, more similar to what 610
Yes.
Yeah, so they have a brick support. So the design standards really call for the replacement of it, what was there. So doing it properly would be, the wood and the painted wood porch.
Rach, we addressed this how many years ago? Yeah. Yeah, and at that time, they were saying something about this might have been, if I'm remembering right, didn't they say that this porch was added to, that there was originally some brick? Because they found a foundation or something around, or area that was already brick? I don't remember entirely. I'm just,
I do not know, as far as like as far as the architecture, brick supports as well as the wood fit,
mhm.
the style of the building.
Yeah, I can't remember. Because they wanted to change windows and 11 other things at the time. But the brick does fall into the specifications for that historic district, doesn't it?
It says existing, up on the screen. So should one or more of these elements be deteriorated enough to warrant replacement? That the material shall maintain the original material size, shape, pattern, texture, and directional orientation. And then if it's wood, it needs to be painted. And that's really the only guidance. So if you were going to stick to that, then they should replace the wooden porch. But if there's, the idea that the brick was actually original and the wooden porch isn't, that's what we're here for. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been both ways. That's what I thought too.
Yeah. Right. And again, and architecturally, it's fits.
So it had brick columns that went all the way up to the roof itself.
What did,
I mean, it wasn't,
the pedestal where they started it?
for porches like that, it wasn't uncommon to have brick pilasters under the. Yeah, but it wasn't necessarily commonplace for the brick to go all the way up to the roof.
What they're doing now is it three pillars of brick that they're doing? on
Right.
Lafayette.
Well, and I'm looking at
Similar to what
610. See, now 610, I think, is a different type of structure, or that porch is a different type of structure. And I'm not sure that that is in keeping with that style that I'm seeing on 407. Now, what appears to me to be more in style for 407 would be something more like 616, where you actually had maybe brick pilasters that came up to the deck, the porch decking, that the porch decking sat on, and then from there you went up wood columns to support the porch roof.
You're like 608 needs to be party.
And 608, yeah. Now 608 brings it up to more, to a, it's got more of a little pedestal railing height. But personally, I'm not sure that brick columns going all the way up to the roof level, or I'm just not sure that's appropriate for that style of house. Right.
It is evidence, though, that the foundation of the porch is brick masonry.
Right. And that would seem
That
appropriate
might
to
be
me.
in discussions, whether that is concrete slab.
Well, is he wanting to go back with
Similar to
concrete
these other
slab?
ones, these are all these bases are not masonry. If you look at the houses.
Can I have Mike go down to the corner and take pictures? I'm not any good with this.
So the question is not whether or not there are brick piers that support the code.
Doesn't match the,
The question is
Specification.
whether the new plans, which extend the porch post all the way up to the roof masonry, are appropriate. We read the guidelines for that particular district and that particular house. That would not be an appropriate change in the design. And that's the question, not whether or not the bases of those posts are brick.
Mhm. Right.
Particular porch appears to have been there, well, the one in the photograph appears to have been there for probably 60, 70, 80 years of the house's 80, 90-year history. I'm assuming it was built in the 20s. Then that's kind of what you have to go with if you follow the design code.
Rachel, on this, you said this was a catch, so did they already get approved for a building permit and said, yeah, go ahead and do this, or they didn't have a building permit and somebody happened to drive by and see it?
That's right. And I have communicated with this property owner in the past about, and at the time it was, we're considering buying this property, what does it mean? And sent them the design standards for property. That's been some years ago. But this is, so the owner of this property is the Premium Pets. So they own the one in front. So at this point, like when they're trying to put the porch on and they've already worked, and that's the question, like, so that's what the commission perceivably has the power to do. Do
we stop what they're doing and tell them, hey, stop, take down what you've already done and do more something that matches closer? Or do we let them go ahead and finish out the bricking? Because I think they've got 2 columns up, if I remember driving by today.
I did not drive by today, but Carly had mentioned that there's definitely one, the central one.
Yeah, for some reason, in my mind, driving through, I think I saw 2. So at this point, we need a motion and we need it in the positive, basically to approve what they're doing to rehab it, and then we either have to vote it, okay, go for it, finish it, or we vote it down. Is that correct?
Yes, and within the code, and we're gonna make that, but I'll have to take it to the attorneys to make sure, because we have our code issue about reviewing and what does review mean. So if per se, that the commission were to decide that, no, you're not doing it to the design standards, you have to start, basically take your brick down put up a wooden porch. We've got to make sure that we're doing it according to code and according to our local ordinances. So that would be the caveat. And I don't mind doing that because that's what the commission is, that's the power of the commission. But that is the decision. What does, for them, what does review by this body mean? So, and keeping that off to the side, if you have a perceived power for the commission to uphold the design standards, what does that look like? Would you make the property owner start over? Would you grant an exception? Because it's, you can make that determination that it's architecturally okay for that area. So that's up to you all.
Any questions on that? So we can say it's architecturally correct or architecturally all right and approve that, or we can just say you can't, you have to take it down.
Or it's not architecturally wrong.
Well, I don't think we have the power to say you have to take it down necessarily. We have the power to say not meet the standards of that's what I'm hearing.
Tiffany, are you saying that the doesn't meet the design standards because they're not replicating what is existing there, even though it
What that
matched,
says.
even though it,
Existing porches and their architectural
Right.
elements, not such as, but not limited to railing, columns, brackets, steps, shall be retained here. Basically says if it doesn't, I'm not saying that a new design doesn't match other buildings, but it does not match the character or the design of that.
That particular.
And that's what I'm reading the design guidelines say. And I think we have, and this has frustrated me in the regulation, we have an inconsistent process for reviewing these things. For example, we had a long discussion about 208 Elm Street, which has a great, cute building, but there's nothing around it. There's no districts. But in our last meeting, we approved the demolition of two, not the most amazing buildings, but definitely contributing to the character of a potential district. So we are very inconsistent in how we review all of this stuff. We either need to get our act together so we can be transparent and consistent, or we just need to keep haphazardly reviewing things. So that's my 2 cents about so and how it's been operating.
Thanks, Tiff.
So,
Thank you. I do have one question on this. If we say, hey, this doesn't meet criteria, go back and rethink it or whatever, do they have an appeal process from that?
Yes,
directly to the city
they,
council?
right.
I thought so, but I wanted to make sure. Okay, so it's up to you all what motion you would like to make concerning it.
Well, it sounds like we have to have something to vote on, so I'm not going to make the motion yet, but it sounds like we need some vote on, so it would seem to me the thing to do would be to make a motion to approve it, and then we vote the way we do. We either vote to approve it or we don't approve it. If it doesn't get approved, they go through the appeal process or they redesign.
Correct.
Now, just one comment, but I agree with Tiffany on what she was saying. For something like this, it would seem to me, and I guess I'm not familiar enough with the code portions here. Would seem for things like this, I know when I was on the facade committee, people would have to actually submit plans on
Mhm.
what they were doing before they actually got approval for it. And if we don't have something like that in the code, I'm thinking it would be good to get something like that in the code to eliminate the inconsistency in what we're doing. But that way we catch it before it gets to this stage. So anyway, that's just my 1 cent to her 2 cents. So having said all that, I will make the motion to approve the building permit for 407 Lafayette Street.
Do I have a second? We have a motion on the floor to approve the permit and a second. Any further discussion or questions? Not all those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Motion has been denied. And Rachel, you get to go tell Brittany, huh? And Jake.
Well, so
How to do
I'll
it.
run it through legal and see how does this work? What does this mean? And from a staff perspective, I support the commission and also support the applicants and try to make processes flow. But it is helpful to hear from the commission when something isn't working or functioning properly as a process, because that will help us during our code revision. So hopefully by the time we get a draft, have this body review it and really think about some of these instances where we're reviewing something and the process is broken. It may not be necessarily up the subject matter that we're looking at, but when it's the process, that's something that we should fix while we're cracking open that code. So I appreciate those comments.
Of us, or someone that I think, we're the more we educate word out. So, there are lots of my soapbox.
No, you're right, because there's other owners in that area that are facing similar issues with what they can and can't do with School Street specifically. And they're caught in a real conundrum in some cases, because they own it, they can't do anything on it because of all the FEMA requirements and the other things that are there. Yeah, and they really don't understand it. You're right. I'll get off my soapbox.
The night of soapbox.
That's that kind of a night. What the heck? Okay. We're down to historic revitalization grant application.
Yes. So if you'll recall, last fall, Jefferson City, we found out that we were the recipients of the Brune Revitalization Grant. We received $675,000 to establish a sub-grant program to restore some of our properties in the Missouri State Capitol Historic District and the old Unitburg Commercial Historic District. We have officially opened the application to property owners. There's 34 eligible properties that could apply. They have to be contributing within the historic district. So we did send those property owners letters letting them know that this opportunity was coming. And then we recently sent out another batch of letters saying it's here. We are going to have a grant workshop for those property owners on June 23rd at 5:30 p.m. And you're more than welcome to come if that's something that's interesting to you. But really why we're bringing this up is I think this body is the best body to review those applications and determine the award recipients. So that is my request to the commission. I'd like that to be probably outside of a normal meeting proceeding, more of a work session to review and score those applications so we can sub-grant those out. We
When is the
anticipate,
deadline for them to submit the application?
I believe it's the end of July, is that right?
Yeah, July 31st.
July 31st. And when is our deadline for getting the information back? Saying, yes, you are, or no, you're not.
I mean, we gave them a tentative deadline, but really we'd probably gather up those applications and have them ready for that review, hopefully that first week of August. We do have to have the grants completed by no, not December, September of 2024. So we want to give them as much time as possible on their construction side. So as organized as we can be in the review and I don't anticipate that it should take that long, but I want to give this body enough time to review the applications, and then score them. And then we could have a meeting, a work session that would make the determination, and then we could get those awards out pretty quickly. So I guess my question is, how long do you need to review application?
Well,
And
quite
we haven't
honestly, I
put in
won't
an
be here the
application
first
packet.
week in August, so
Well,
I'm going to have to look at some other folks. Help with that.
and that's, I mean, it doesn't have to be the first week, but in that,
Mhm.
time is sensitive on this.
How many are you looking to do? Yeah, it is. As a matter of fact, we had a comment last night at the Historic Preservation Commission, or Historic Preservation State Conference, that somebody heard that Jefferson City qualified, so they went ahead and applied. They figured they were as good as Jeff City.
Oh, Sedalia,
That
Sedalia
was
recently
Sedalia.
got one.
Yeah, Sedalia.
There we go.
Oh, it's great. Well, I know.
Can we make it,
Right. And there would be more, oh, go ahead.
Can we make a decision on the date? I'm not trying to be a pain, but I teach at the university and August is our very busy time of the year. It's the beginning of the school year. So I just need to put it in my calendar so I can tell my bosses, sorry, I really have something.
I would love that. Let's make a date.
we can do that.
So no first week.
I'm actually gone July 27th to August 13th. So, but that's,
When
but
that help you, does it?
you guys.
No.
see-
After that is when I'm.
That's what school starts.
Yes.
Can we? That's what I want to know. Or,
If it's going to be a work session, we need a quorum.
you need
6.
9.
Yeah, 5. Sorry.
How long of a work session are we talking? Like
It
8
dep-
hours?
it depends on, I think we would know that once we got the applications in.
Like, like an online kind of do a for the meeting
Yeah.
and scoring and.
That's,
Yeah.
because
So-
I could participate if I could get that in.
Are you going to do this on your vacation?
Why not? I was supposed to be on vacation. I don't know how many times it's gotten, so
So
I am doing this one.
You're gonna be on your river cruise, and July 31st is a Sunday. So that Monday, we would come in and compile all the applications together. And then as soon as we got that compilation done, we could send it out to you all to give you that time to review. And we'll have a scoring sheet. We built in scoring points to the
Mhm.
application. So there's some that are, how you score them is how they should rank. You do have discretionary points that you can assign, but the concept is if you have something that scores 60 points, but then you award something that scored 50 points, that's
Rachel,
gonna
if you
work.
sent these out on August 1st to everyone through a package,
Mhm.
copy them, et cetera,
Yep.
and give them 5 days or so that the following week, because we've got a regular HPC meeting, I think, the following week,
Yes, on the 9th.
We
on the
do.
9th. And if everybody has pre-done it, can it just be a matter of coming in an hour early and staying over?
Yeah,
To do
that
that,
is
would that be-
entirely, the timing
I'm
of
just
it-
looking at the way
yeah.
to get it on everybody's calendar that
I
they've
like that
already
idea.
blocked off, if possible. Oh, you're not gonna be able to be there. Kristen.
I am giving a talk at the library that night that was
Tell Valerie,
scheduled.
Natalie,
No.
to do it.
That was pre-scheduled as of like February.
I understand.
So, and I run that lecture series, so I can't just bail.
But if we get the stuff, if we get the stuff beforehand and basically have a scoring sheet, is it absolutely necessary for
I mean, I could bring
Attendance.
stuff.
Just
everybody.
discussion. Yeah,
long
as
as we
long
have a
as we have a quorum for that meeting.
Yeah, we'll need to have a core. So this is what we would need a quorum. We'll have the score sheets that come up. We'll discuss. So you don't have to have your sheets. You can either score them beforehand, or you can not score them and come to the work session and have conversation about it and then score them on site. But we will collect those score sheets and make sure that they make sense with who we've awarded. And I think somebody asked earlier, we plan on doing 3 to 5. They can request to $50,000 to $200,000 within that. Then they will have a conservation easement on them for 10 years that will file the deed. That's one of the requirements from the National Park Service. So if you're gonna, and that basically means that you have to, maintain Secretary of Interior standards on your property for at least 10 years. 10 years, yeah. So timing of which is completely up to you all. I just wanted to get you booked.
Well, my proposal is that if the applications are sent out to all of us, along with the score sheet, and then if we schedule the time for the regularly scheduled meeting in August, either go before or after the meeting, go through that. As long as we've got a quorum for the meeting, we can conduct business at the meeting. As long as we've got a quorum for the meeting, then we should have a quorum to do the grant work also. Getting it out beforehand, gives everybody a chance to review them, to score them, if they can't attend, and that input can then be part of what's going on. So trying to get everybody together on the same day
Well, the other
may be somewhat
possibility
difficult,
is
but as long as we can get a
Christine
quorum.
being gone, my being gone. And I don't know how everybody else's schedule looks, is even going the next Tuesday, moving our meeting to the next Tuesday that month. But that won't work. Okay, sorry. Never mind.
That's the first.
Never mind.
week
We're looking
back.
at
I have
options.
To be at work. Unless you want to talk to Dr.
Well, and that's a good point, because if Christine is not available and Donna's not available, then
I mean, the
We're
following.
down
1,
to
2, 3, 4,
5.
5, then we'd be left to, you guys would all have to show up.
Will everybody be there for August?
Well, we're going to have to for a regular meeting anyway.
Right. Well, and that's,
Either that or
but that's
we
what Donna was
reschedule
saying.
the regular meeting also for, rather than August, for September.
Yeah, we don't want to
That's
walk it
commission's
back
pleasure,
that way.
Whatever you guys want to do.
Okay, so do you want to stick with the August meeting? And depending on how many applications we get, how much time might be necessary, and Rachel will let us know that. She'll send out the packages ahead of time, so everybody can score them. And I'll be glad to send my scores in if you want to look at those too. And
And
same thing with Christine.
yeah, I was gonna say with Tiffany's permission, since she and I know each other and work together, through various things, I could always, be like, here, Tiffany.
Yeah.
Yeah, here are my thoughts.
And here are my comments.
Yeah. I mean, she wouldn't be able to text me while I'm giving my talk. at the
But I think that
library, but-
would work. So everybody stick with the 9th and
Well, we
Before
can-
or
or whatever
after?
that, what works better for you all, before or after the,
After.
stay over a little later? After, okay.
After because I might be able to. Right.
Well, hopefully we'll have very little on the agenda and we can get out of here. And so like, we normally are out of here like 6:45. We're going a little later tonight.
I suspect my talk's gonna go.
Well, you may be over here. Who knows?
I'm talking about Missouri monsters. I have a feeling people.
I
are
don't
gonna
even
keep
want to
me-
hear it.
I have a feeling people are gonna keep me late.
Okay. That's the flow at this point.
Okay, so I've got August 9th, special session after. All right. Thank you. I could do that. I'll bring you cookies. I could do that. Thank you all, by the way, for scoring those. Appreciate it.
Okay. Other business, code revision update. I can't give it. I only was there for that part.
And neither was Brad.
Yeah, we were only there for parts.
Were you there,
Yeah, I
Brad?
was there.
Oh,
Were you there?
I'll let Brad talk.
I mean, I have no. The only thing I saw to update on was that we discussed the procedure to authorize construction, reconstruction and alterations to structures along with the demolition procedures. And I just thought of our commission was mentioned a lot in that, some of the changes that we made. I think you covered it a little bit about what our responsibilities are through this code. But you might be able to speak better on that. But I mean, we will review alterations and then they will go to Board of Appeals,
If
Board of
necessary.
Adjustment as an appeal. I'm sorry, Board of Adjustment as an appeal. Could go further. But we will look at alterations along with demolitions. So to what Tiffany said earlier, we have to kind of think about the design guidelines. But I mean, they are written with the context of the situation, though. They're not going to be like hard defined, like let's find it here. And it's kind of like that house we looked at, whether those columns are appropriate. It's open for discussion, not necessarily predefined.
Well, I'm not saying any historic district, because I'm always like, why are we debating for 20 minutes over roofing when, a roof is not gonna, changing the roof line will change your building. Well, it's not going to significantly improve. But I do think, you have to look at the history of the building as well as the history of the neighborhood. The design guidelines, especially if it was written, the guidelines, if you look at the history of the building. I think we've had examples for example, the house that HCJ helped rehab at the corner of the yellow house that was by the National Cemetery. It's on,
Cottage.
not Cotton.
Over that. Yeah, that was before my time. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, I mean, they were designed as an Italian house, but it was never.
Mhm.
So, I think it's an Italian house.
That wasn't.
So I think those are things that we have to think about, but we also have to be very transparent and consistent. Things. A lot of times when the people, the owners here, bad of us, but yet,
You have to follow the procedure.
you have to follow procedure, and we have to be consistent too. And most codes have the variance because of like chip and other things, and those are reasons to consider alternatives. But those aren't factors to be sticking to what's written. Again, sense work.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's
Mhm.
what I took out of it is we have a lot more responsibility. We've just been looking at demo projects and
Mhm.
kicking them around, but probably a lot more responsibility with this code.
Mhm.
A little bit more like the facade committee, like,
Right.
a
Well,
lot
no.
more open discussion about what's appropriate.
What's
not.
appropriate. Well, I was going to add also that again, if there's any way to be able to work, I know it's difficult to write code, just like the uniform building code. All of those, they're built in general terms. I mean, they're written in general terms to give general guidelines. Problem with it is that it's subject to interpretation by the people who are designing them and
For us.
exactly. Now, where the check usually comes in on that is that after I design a building according to the code and submit it, the building official in that municipality is looking at it. Now, if there's a discrepancy between what I interpret and what he interprets, we have to get together and work that out before a building permit is issued. So if that kind of stopgap measure can be built into these types of things, that nobody goes out and gets a permit, as in the case of the house we just did. They don't have a permit, they haven't torn anything down, they haven't started constructing anything until plans have been reviewed and the interpretations have been agreed upon.
Yeah.
And I think a lot can be solved, on a house like that. Some negotiation, some discussion of the interpretation and what
Yeah.
really works for that,
With this
I
code,
think would solve a lot of problems.
With this code, that would have happened here. They would have presented this to us.
Yeah.
We would have moved it. Like,
So as long as we've got that kind of a stopgap, I think, in there, I think that helps us. Then the code itself can be more general term.
The only question I had, where do we stand on the design guidelines themselves? Want to consult that out, which either way.
So the thought, the design, so currently we've got a hodgepodge of local, so we have the local historic district. We have the School Street Local Historic District. We have the Lower Jefferson Conservation District, which is a different way of getting its designation, but it behaves the same exact way as a local historic district. So I'm not, other than how it becomes one is different. And then we have the East Capitol Overlay District, or Capitol Avenue Overlay District. And that's in the zoning code. So we've got three different, they're all the same thing, but they're a little bit different. So that's going to be the other question is what, obviously they have went through a process. They will be grandfathered in at some point during that process because the neighborhood did their thing. They submitted their petitions. They got all of their signatures. They went through it. There was a process that these areas went through to become what they are. But with the design standards that are attached to them, that's something that we can go back and but it'll have to be a process to go back and amend those. So in the code revision, we have the ability to amend a local historic district. We don't really talk about it in our existing code, except that it would kind of have to start the process over again. I don't know that we necessarily need to do that. But kind of cleaning up what we have would be nice. And then having design standards for each area, because we could add more local historic districts in the future, but there also needs to be an overarching design guideline that is more of a teaching tool. This is what we're talking about when we talk about setbacks. This is what we're talking about when we're talking about what's a hipped roof. And we need to have something that is an educational tool that tells people and it's all for all things. This is how you would do new construction in an older neighborhood. This is how, you should look at doing rehabilitations, repairs, whatever it may be. But some sort of guideline that says when we're saying these technical terms, this is what we're talking about. And this is how you can make your structure work with this, whatever project that you're trying to do work in this local historic district or National Register district, or, just something that is taking the Secretary of Interior standards and customizing it to Jefferson City, sort of the idea. But what do we do with the local historic districts once, this code revision comes and what do the design standards look like? We have to work that out because that's the other wave.
Design standard to be developed by.
The design guidelines, so we applied for a Historic Preservation Fund grant for design guidelines. So that big one would be a consultant. I think the design standards that we'll have to, we're probably going to, I don't think that's a bite that we can take all at once. I think we're going to have to go section by section and look at them and look at what we need there. But if you're wanting a consultant for that, we can put that in the queue for our HPF asks. The big package is definitely a consultant. We don't have the staff resources to be able to.
Because city staff will have the initial role appropriate application.
In the code revision? In the code revision? So in the code revision, the draft currently says if you have design standards and you come in for a building permit and staff review it and it obviously fits the design standards, then there would be a staff sign off on that. If it falls into a gray area or they're requesting an exception or, they found evidence that my porch is wooden now, but I found evidence that it was originally brick. They could come to the commission and request that they want to do that project, even though it's not specifically spelled out in the design standards. Because you're always going to have those projects that you're never going to anticipate exactly what people are going to want to do to their properties.
Any questions on the ordinance review? What happened at the last meeting? Draft historic context. review.
Yes. So we did receive from Owen in East Lake, we received a draft, and he did say that, this is a draft. He plans to build out some areas a little bit further. But I wanted to go ahead and give that to you all in the packet for your review. And it's okay if you haven't reviewed it yet, but if you do find, and we found some, typos and things like that. And I do have questions about some of the content that was put in there. But as you're going through it, if you have questions or if you feel like there's a correction, I would appreciate the more eyes on this in draft status, the better to get a good final product.
Questions to Rachel about the,
Looks like a good reading.
East Capitol Avenue update?
So we have, we did get our HPF award for structural assessment to go in. So there's 2 layers to the structural assessment project. So the city, so we knew we had $28,000 available for the structural assessment through the HPF grant. We knew that was probably not going to be enough. So half of the structural assessment is being done through city funds, half of it is being done through the HPF grant. We have a request for qualifications that's getting ready to go out this week, hopefully soon. So we're basically working with our procurement and our finance to get that out. And the requests of our scope is the same exact one that the city is doing. So we're hoping that the reports match. If in fact that the current contractor that's doing it now, hopefully they'll pick it up. That would make it easier, not to put preference on somebody, but we would like the reports to be consistent. So once they've already done, it was Allstate that's done the city side of it. They've already went into the properties. They did kind of fall through the staircase in one. So we had a little bit of some trouble there. But they did go into the properties, and we anticipate their report within the next couple of weeks. So then there'll be a first wave and then a second wave of reports. Once we get all the reports together, we'll make those public to everyone, and then council will make the decision on how to proceed with the properties next.
And we still have a list compiling of people who are interested in those properties.
Yes, yes, we do. And if you go to if anybody's ever asking or you're curious yourself or you want to dive deeper in, we did update the main page of the city's website. If you go under the news and headlines, there's the East Capitol Avenue plans. And every time something new happens, we post it there. Just to make, again, transparency, consistency, trying to get all that information out there. And then we do have we were trying to get it connected to where you could, do it yourself, but it's still, you send us an email and we add you to a constant contact list. And because, again, the properties are still not under the city's ownership. They still are in private hands. But if the council decides that they do want to go through the eminent domain process, and if the city becomes owners of the properties, then there will be a list that the interested parties can be on.
Any questions about East Capitol at this point? Okay, last 2 mentions, Missouri Preservation Conference is going on right now. A lot of folks in here looking at what we're doing and so forth. Rachel, you have any comments on the conference?
Oh, it's been great so far. It's a little bit lean, but conferences, this is the first one we've done since the pandemic in person. But it's still, the content is good. There's folks from all over the state. There's somebody from Kentucky that came in. So it's been an interesting perspective to listen to different communities and different spheres of historic preservation and how they're dealing with some of their preservation issues. Well, thank you. We talked about making plans and finding money.
That's the best thing to go with.
Yelling.
National Alliance of Preservation Commissions, Cincinnati, Ohio, in July.
Yes, so this is the national, there's a national alliance for preservation commissions for you all. They have a biennial conference, so they kind of jump around. 2020, and I believe we sent out a link, was the virtual conference that I know a lot of you participated in, but they're now moving back to the in-person conferences. There is one, the next one is July 13th through 17th. It's in Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm currently asking our administration, like, what can we do we talked about there's different grant funding opportunities that we can do to send commissioners to these conferences if you are interested in going to a national conference. It just kind of lets you maybe give you some perspective on what other communities are doing in different states around the country. Trying to set that up. And Donna, is that something that you're still interested in going?
Mhm.
Okay. I know, right?
Everything else.
Everything, the world is crazy, so you got to stay flexible. But I want to put this out there because this is something, there are grants that we can apply for to help send commission members to these conferences. So it'd be more of a matter of your time and your willingness, but these national ones are once every 2 years. So we could kind of get in a cycle where we're sending a representation from Jefferson City.
No.
Oh, the grant.
Yes.
Get a sense.
And there is in this conference, it's become more apparent. There's definitely a shift in historic preservation and what's happening right now. We've still done kind of some of we do the survey, we do the National Register nominations, but there's this push to do more, to start being more inclusive, to start being a little bit more creative in some of the how we're approaching preservation projects. So all those changes are just, they're coming. So I'd rather be aware of them and ready for them versus behind. So just the more education that we can subject ourselves to would be good at this point.
Any questions for Rachel on that? If you are interested, let Rachel know and we'll see what the possibilities are.
And it may be short notice for this year, but right.
Yeah.
But we always it's always in July every 2 years. So that because can be something that we gear up for.
Any other business to be brought to the floor? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
That was quick. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We're out of here. Are we offline yet?